What's going on, everybody? We got a special cast here for you today. It's going to be Artosis versus Kwark, and as you can see, the shit talk has already begun here. So far, Artosis not firing back yet, but this is a long-standing rivalry between these two.
Yeah, it certainly is. It kind of allegedly it started out with Kwark apparently just happening to bump into Artosis on the ladder, and Artosis got a little bit angry at him and accused him of stream sniping him, and Kwark found that a little bit funny and then just couldn't help himself from actually doing that for real for quite some time. So he's been sniping him many times over the years, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea for a streamer like Kwark. Just stream snipe the biggest streamer on the platform. Try to, you know, get your game seen by a few people, and it's worked out pretty well for him. Artosis, however, he is just not having it at all. He does not enjoy playing against this guy, I don't think. And as you can see, his APM 450 to Kwark's 150, but Kwark still manages to take games off of him.
Yeah, Kwark's a very, very intellectual player. He likes to really analyze his games on the fly, and he's very thoughtful. He kind of needs to make up for his lack of mechanical prowess, so to speak. And Artosis is a very mechanically strong player, so we can see Artosis wanting to rely on that strength of his and trying to outmuscle Kwark going forward here, already spamming his heart out, getting his fingers warmed up.
Yeah, Artosis is pretty quick. I don't think he utilizes that quickness very much, though. Like, he definitely has the mechanical ability to do things like drop play and, you know, plenty of vulture run-bys, you know, throwing mines all around the map. But he tends to be very passive, sitting back and kind of not really leaning into that advantage that he has.
Yeah, it's true. He's a very passive player and usually doesn't have enough map control or map vision even, and that can usually bite him in the ass quite a lot when he gets caught blindsided by something he maybe should have been able to scout just by having a little bit more map vision and presence out there trying to figure out what's going on rather than just sitting back at home and trying to macro up. But it looks like, interestingly enough, on Butter here, Kwark not even going to bother to scout or try for the gas steal or anything. He's just going to be sitting here, making a core, making a gas, and trying to squeeze out a little bit of extra minerals, trying to sneak out this probe to make this Nexus. I think he's skipping the Dragoon, and he wants to get this Nexus super fast at 17 supply, yeah. Yeah, Kwark likes to do this sort of rangeless style where he skips the Dragoon and the range and gets the really fast Nexus.
So I guess he's going to follow this up with the Robo as well, too, right? There's no reason to have this much gas.
Yeah, Kwark also likes to get super fast robo and observers. He likes to get the observer like into the Terran base as soon as possible, so he can like kind of adjust his build on the fly relative to what the Terran is doing.
Well, what the Terran is doing is nothing special here, just getting out his own command center as quickly as possible. Looks like he only built one. Oh, he's got 3 Marines now. But skipping that bunker for now. He sees everything that's going on in the Protoss base. He knows he doesn't need that extra defense here. We'll be getting his factory down pretty quickly. Still haven't seen a Robo go down for Kwark just yet. What is this building up behind here? Oh, it is a Robo above the gas.
And I'm actually, the SCV actually didn't see that, I don't think, because
yeah,
the
he did a good job.
The pylon will actually prevents the SCV getting in scouting range of that Robo. So it's actually going to be a little bit blindsided for Artosis here once, but you will be able to figure this out quite soon once he sees the observer inside his main base quite early on, around just before 6 minutes, 6-ish minutes, I believe.
Kwark, not really a Reaver player, so yeah, just going to be those observers coming across the map here soon. First Dragoon playing super defensive, just going to sit here in the natural and probe out in front of the main. Meanwhile, Artosis is going to sneak another SCV around the map. He is going to get a scout off, looks like. Going the very, very long way here to make sure he's not spotted and a Dragoon doesn't just chase that down.
Yeah, right now,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say right now though, Kwark really cut his production early game, trying to optimize against Artosis. He kind of knows Artosis' style a little bit, so he's kind of trying to metagame him a little bit. We see the observatory finished way before 5 minutes. Observer already going to be on the way for Kwark, so we'll have this observer inside the main base of the Terran right around 6 minutes. So he'll be able to identify pretty much anything that Artosis could possibly throw at him, any kind of 5 factory push or anything. Like this will help Kwark like really metagame Artosis going forward. This is one of the things that Kwark does so well, is he's really good at reading the early game and trying to adjust his build and line his economic and tech curve as well as possible with the Terran player, so he can take advantage of the fact that he doesn't quite have the same like attacking micro that most Protoss players do have to overwhelm Terran positions.
And that SCV didn't get any more information. It just saw the 3 Dragoons at the natural. We've got no upgrades coming so far for Artosis here. Instead, just focusing on building up some tanks.
It looks like he wants...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like he wanted to maybe consider doing some kind of like 5 tank push, kind of. He even squeezed out an extra Marine, which was interesting. I'm not sure if he's concerned about maybe a little bit of a pressure play coming from Kwark coming up, and maybe he doesn't feel quite safe. It was interesting that he made that extra Marine. If he was making more Marines, it would make me think that he would want to do like maybe like a 3 tank push, but he's not. So I think it's going to be more like a 5 to 7 tank. Oh, it's going to be a 3 tank push, but only with 4 Marines. I'm not sure this is wise.
Yeah, he's going to go for the speed and mines at the same time here. So just pure vulture is going to come out of him after this, and he's going to look for an opportunity to run by, I think, into the main here. He's going to draw these Dragoons and Zealots out of the natural area and then try to run by and get here into the natural in the main. Throw some mines down behind Kwark, but Kwark has his observer all over this army. He knows exactly where it is and where it's going. He's got an observer here in the natural as well, so he sees no more factors being thrown down just yet. Everything's seen here by Kwark. How will he respond?
But currently he only had 2 gateway production, but he was producing on them quite solidly, so he does have a healthy count of 7 Dragoons to these 3 tanks, just barely enough to keep them at bay. There'll be siege mode on the way as well. These vultures already have their speed and mines, so could come in here and do a lot of damage if Kwark's not careful. Also have a little shuttle loading up with some Zealots for the bomb in case Artosis was able to get up some kind of contain. He would just be able to Zealot bomb on top of those tanks and deal with that. So yeah, I'm not too sure about this move out from Artosis here. It's good as long as he doesn't lose these tanks. He needs to pull back from this high ground position right now, because Kwark can come down in there and punish him if he's not careful. 1 tank is already on a little bit of HP damage. We knew that the shuttle coming in now, so Artosis is going to have to evacuate this position, or he's losing all of these units. Marines try targeting down the shuttle while the Dragoons are distracted with the mines, but Zealot's getting out on top of those Marines, going to be able to clean up those nicely. And now luckily the 3 tanks are going to be able to get out of there alive, which is the main important thing. The fact that Artosis didn't lose these tanks maybe will give him a good position in this game going forward. We also saw some probes going down in the natural expansion during this time, so did get a lot of economic damage to Kwark during that, and has delayed the 3rd base of Kwark critically. So currently had about 10 workers, and we've delayed the Protoss' 3rd base while putting on the pressure, and we didn't lose any tanks. So right now I really like Artosis' position.
Yeah, that was exactly as expected. Running by 2 vultures there as the Dragoons moved out of the natural. Got about 7 kills on one of those vultures, and I think 1 or 2 kills on the other. So really nicely done there by our Terran player Artosis. Can he roll this into a win? Because on the other side of the map there is Arbiter Tech on the way here with Stasis Field rather than Recall. What do you think about Stasis Field here?
It can be really good, especially against a player like Artosis. He's not someone that like spends a lot of time splitting his tanks up, so he will have these like just big clumps of tanks quite stereotypically, so you can really abuse that. At the higher end of the skill spectrum, Arbiters tend to lose their value a little bit. They're easy to use units, but they kind of lose their value against really skilled Terrans. So I think it's a great choice against someone of Artosis' caliber. If he was a much higher ranked Terran, maybe this wouldn't be the most optimal play. Maybe you want to go into Gateway Man with storms and stuff, but I think against Artosis here, the fast stasis is more than adequate.
I think that stasis is perfect for Kwark style in his APM. The
It's
Arbiter,
much easier to use, yeah.
much easier to use. It just requires a lot of precision, right? You have to move forward with everything at the same time, and then get the proper stasis on the proper groups of tanks, and then you can pretty much take that fight. So we'll see how he's able to utilize that here. So far, Artosis is setting up a really good position out in front of his natural, getting his tanks spread out. Bunch of buildings being thrown down here as well. It's not all buildable terrain, but there are a few spots around it can be built on. You can throw in maybe another supply depot over here on the left, maybe another one on the right, just kind of clog this area up. But he does need to spread these tanks even further. Like, I don't like to see even 2 tanks right next to each other. 3 tanks is a little bit too much. Anything more than that could be a game-winning stasis for Kwark.
Oh, absolutely, especially with the amount of arbiters he's going to have, because he started making them fairly early on. He has like a really fast, like 10-minute stasis timing almost, and I think already like 2 or 3 arbiters out on the map. So it's going to be a little bit scary for Artosis if he doesn't get those EMPs and vessels out pretty soon. There's also going to probably be some recalls into the main base at some point. Already some anti-recall defense up, but not a lot, just a few mines and some turrets, but that can be more than enough to buy you some time and whittle down the force of the recall to help make it cost efficient for the Terran player. And we do see that there's no armories here exposed in the main base area, so hard for Kwark to come in here and deny the upgrade timing. We'd have to go into the natural for that.
Yeah, Artosis is playing a tight game here, getting all of his defenses up pretty quick. Only 1 single armory and it's in a good spot. So he's only upgrading attack right now, but as long as he gets this 3rd base up in defense, this first recall slash push in by Kwark, he's probably going to be in a decent spot. Able to take this 4th base as well, and then grow into a very, very formidable 3 attack Terran army. That science facility you're talking about, the EMP is not quite on the way yet, as the science facility is just kind of floating right now. We have a shuttle coming in. What's in there? Nothing. Just a scouting shuttle.
Just a scouting shuttle, which is going to die to a Wraith and a turret, unfortunately. But yeah, it's like he's getting EMP. It looks like he doesn't have the resources for it right now. He's a little bit tight, not even making the vessel yet. Okay, now landing the science facility. He does need that soon, though. He really does need that EMP and vessels soon. He's still not making a vessel. One thing I'd like to point out is actually Kwark is ahead on upgrades. Artosis' +1 weapons just finished, and Kwark's +2 weapons is already well on the way, about 25%. So it's actually a little bit rough. We see a very unit-heavy composition from Artosis, but really slow on the upgrades, which might come back to bite him a little bit later on.
Despite being really heavy on the unit production, he's about 50 supply behind Kwark right now. And Kwark, as he maxes out here, is going to start to push forward and look for vulnerabilities. He could also go for a recall. We saw that was upgraded just a little while ago. Now getting the energy upgrade, as well as Artosis here tries to take his high ground for that 4th base. This is actually a really nice position on Butter. Once you turret up at the bottom left and you turret up at this 4th base as well, and then you just kind of set up everything in the center for defense, it's very hard to get a recall in here. It's not completely sewn up just yet, but it could be here shortly. Now, Kwark making his way up to the front. It looks like he wants to go for a frontal attack here. He's got 3 arbiters. Each of them has just about full energy at this point, so plenty of stasis ready to go, and no science vessel to stop them. Here we go.
Yeah, currently 4 stasis are available. 1 goes down. A huge flood of Protoss infantry just streamlining down. Zealots on move command going to try and get on top of these tanks. So much stasis. Like right now, this is a cocktail, and there's a lot of ice cubes to keep this drink cool for Kwark to enjoy as he savors this Terran beverage.
Wow, look at the clumped tanks, man. 5 tanks in this stasis, 4 tanks in this stasis, 3 Goliaths and 1 tank in this stasis, and Kwark is just pounding through this natural here. He's gonna get on top of the factories. Artosis, can he save these units out in the front? Kwark is not gonna let him do it. He's bringing the Zealots back, he's bringing the Dragoons back, and he's keeping an Arbiter on top of all of this so they can't be shot down. Kwark also did a fantastic thing where he froze groups of units at different times, so they're kind of popping out haphazardly here out of the stasis, and they all die easily. My god, that was one-sided. What a stasis attack there, and even stasis is the natural. Not gonna allow these units to come out and even save. He's gonna lose the 4th base. The 3rd base is under threat as well. There's a lot of mines over here to stop that, and one single tank as well, but still stuck in the main base. He can't even move. So frustrated, I bet you right now, screaming at his stream.
I bet you he's super tilted by that, calling him some kind of arsehole, any other kind of name under the sun. Kwark, meanwhile, on 5 base production behind us. Even if the Terran does stabilize, there's going to be a lot of more forces for him to deal with coming up soon, and he's going to be launching more and more assaults at the Terran's 3rd, while the Terran's still trying to come out. This game did kind of go how I thought. Like, Artosis has this bad tendency of keeping his tanks way too clumped, and Kwark knows that and exploits that, and like you say, staggering the stasis so you can just mop up those units one pack at a time as they become unfrozen. Really well executed from Kwark. He might have the mechanics of a god, but he's got the brain of a god sometimes.
Well, it looks like Artosis is going to stabilize here. He managed to keep his 4th command center alive at least. So all the buildings are dead out in the front. However, how many arbiters did we actually lose in that fight? I don't think many went down, actually. He kind of pulled everything back, didn't he? Where are they? There's got to be arbiters around here somewhere. Did you see the arbiters go down?
I did not see them die. There's a couple in the expansion area, but they're fresh arbiters, so I think, yeah, they did die.
Alright, sometimes keeping arbiters alive is better than getting extra spells off, just so that they can regain that energy and come back in for more later. It's like, gonna try and mount this high ground now with quite a few zealots, quite a few dragoons. He's gonna be able to take over this area, and that command center will have to be floated away once again. Artosis is starting to mine out in his main. Actually, he's got no SUVs here. That's a little bit funny. He should really be mining from that location.
Yeah, I do like the Sim City of both players. I really like the gateway layout that Kwark's got to keep his unit flow maximized, and also Artosis has this nice sort of like pyramid shaped setup of his factories. So both players doing a good job of setting up their production right, but this is a tough situation for Artosis, man. I mean, he's even got mines up on top of his tanks here in the middle, so it's like he's just setting himself up for more and more mine drags and more devastation as we go on. And he will hold this central position for the time being, but Kwark's already up onto 5 bases. Artosis is reduced to 2. He'll be mined out soon. Mine's not even maining right now. He's kind of like preserving those minerals in the main. He might need them later on to be able to keep his production alive. We have some tanks up in the 4th base location for Kwark in the top left, 5th base location, trying to shell this down, but they're going to be cleaned up nicely in short order. Also trying to hit this base at 9 o'clock with what few auxiliary units he has available to him that he can spare, but it's just not going to be enough, and Kwark, I think, is going to start running away with this game, already 100 supply ahead.
Yeah, that 100 supply lead, a little bit insurmountable here for a Terran player. He's having to rebuild his engineering bay as well. I guess he lost that during the fighting earlier. Yeah, his 4th command center went down. He's trying to get around with his vultures and actually do some work, and it looks like he's gonna pick off a few more probes, but probe kills at this point are completely useless. You're at 71 probes. You really don't care here as Kwark.
No, not at all. Like he's already ahead like 30 workers. He can afford to lose 10, 20 probes right now, and he can build so many probes at a time as well with how many Nexi he's got. It really doesn't matter. At this point, you almost wouldn't want to trade the vultures for the probes because it just weakens up your position and allows the Protoss to come in for a counterattack.
Yeah, and that counterattack is on the way here. This time, spreading out the tanks nicely. This is what we needed to see in the last battle. Look at how far apart each tank is. It's going to be hard, but the rally point is all bunched up, and he's gonna get a nice little stasis there, picking up a couple more tanks once again. He's coming forward. Does he have any more stasis? Yeah, he does. Well, 3 more stasis are available. 1 stasis for 1 tank. It's still good in this situation because there's so few tanks left over, and the Dragoon number is huge. Here comes Kwark just cleaning up all these units, and Artosis, he's gonna have to GG here in a second as more stasis come down. There's just very little hope left for our Terran player.
Yeah, Kwark can afford to trade a little bit inefficiently here, so just going to get on top of the tank line and just start softening up the units of Artosis more and more, so that he can never get that critical mass of tanks that he needs to stabilize to take more expansions, and he'll eventually become dried up. So a bit of a technical win from Kwark here, understanding that he just needs to refill Zealots and go and keep the pressure on, reduce the Terran forces so that he'll never have a critical mass, and then eventually he'll just have to GG out because he won't have the economy he even needs to support these factories. Meanwhile, Dragoons at the third base shelling the SCVs and the command center, forcing these Terran units to come over and deal with this, while Quark's meanwhile just macroing up out of these 11 or so gateways and 3 Stargates worth of arbiters being produced. GG.
GG. Yeah, that's some pretty insane production. 3 starports worth of arbiter. And this is how many gateways? I guess 13 gates, because we've got 2 High Templar and 11 zealots being produced at the same time. Quite impressive stuff there. How can it possibly be 12? There's 2. 11 and 2. There's gotta be 13. 11 zealots are being produced and 2 Templar.
Oh, where's where's the other gateway?
I don't know.
Oh, it's at the 5th base. He's got like 1 gateway off at the 5th base. Oh, there's another one at the 9 o'clock as well. He's doing that style where you make like in PvZ, where you make like a robo at some of the expansions to build Reavers at your expansions. He's doing the thing where he's making gateways at expansions to make Templar.
Ah, okay. So just to have that defense, that extra defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. All right, guys, surprise, we have 2 games here for you today. It's going to be a rematch between Kwark and Artosis. He's got to be frustrated. He played these both on the same day, so maybe Kwark doing a little bit of that sniping action that you were talking about earlier, queuing up at the same time as Artosis multiple times and managing to get games against him. We'll see if this one ends up going better for Artosis.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really do anything with what he did, like kind of a Mihu style where he focused on like a really heavy amount of army and like put all of his effort into getting a strong economy and army early on, but he did nothing with it. He didn't take an earlier 4th base, or he didn't put any pressure onto Quark's expansion. So kind of needs to be thinking a little bit differently, maybe teching a little bit faster or getting those faster grades if he wants to play that kind of passive style.
Kwark asking again. Don't even talk to me, says Artosis.
That's amazing. I love the banter, and it's kind of funny that like Kwark's even just going to respect that he doesn't want him to talk to him. I think Kwark is satisfied with what he's got thus far.
A bit of good bad manner from Kwark here, but Artosis, he's gonna stick in. He's not gonna tell Kwark to leave. He's not gonna leave the game. He's gonna try and play this one out. Will he learn from his mistakes? That is the question we're all wondering every time we tune into the Artosis stream. But it's especially important here because Kwark, I mean, he's a very strong player. He's a smart player, but he has holes in his game. You can find those windows of opportunity if you're looking for them, if you're adapting to them. But, you know, Artosis, he doesn't seem to want to do that. I think he doesn't really respect Kwark very much. And he's not going to be, like, looking at their replays and, you know, analyzing to figure out what this 140 APM player is doing that's allowing him to beat Artosis over and over.
Yeah, and honestly, probably Artosis is losing a lot of these games purely because it is a personal grudge that he feels, and he is being too emotional about how he's analyzing the games, and is just thinking more about, oh, what an arsehole this guy is, as opposed to what could I be doing differently to counter his style.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to keep the emotions out of it. A lot of players do get frustrated. I've had it happen to myself as well. It's just part of the game. Losing to the same person over and over again, it's never any fun. But Kwark here mining gas with just 1 probe. Is that standard?
I guess it's standard if you're Kwark and you don't want to make a Dragoon in range and want to instead take your Nexus at like 17 or so supply.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing is that Artosis is doing this sort of like bunker expand Mihu style where he's like going really heavy on the factory units and kind of being really passive early on. So I think Kwark knows he can get away with this style. Yeah, he's going to be throwing down that Nexus at 17 supply. And like, we can't punish this as Artosis. Like, he's just going to be bunker expanding and playing probably the very similar Mihu style that we saw in the last game. But if he doesn't put any pressure in the early game with those extra factories and extra units, then Kwark's going to do more or less the same thing and just like tech up and maybe even go carriers this time and like, yeah, just crush him yet again if he doesn't tech up fast enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like this from Artosis. Like, he knows that Kwark is going to take a greedy expansion. He's not taking the greediest expansion. You could definitely go for like a 14 Nexus, right? Or 12 Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
And be a lot more greedy. But this is about as greedy as it gets for Artosis here. Going for a bunker expand and getting that command center really, really fast. So, I mean, he's also not going to be under any pressure. I just wish... I want to see him follow up with either a really quick third base or some sort of timing attack where he can put pressure on Kwark while he's teching up here in this game.
Yeah, and Kwark doesn't confirm what Artosis is doing. He doesn't know the command center is there, whereas the SEV of Artosis saw everything. He saw the core timing of the range, he saw the Nexus, he knows everything that Kwark is doing, whereas Kwark doesn't know exactly what Artosis is doing. So it'll be slightly harder for Kwark to optimize to what he's doing. So he will be seeing that really fast robo, we'll be seeing that really fast observer, no matter what, out of Kwark, so that when he doesn't get this early scout, because here's the thing, if he's skipping his Dragoon, he can't poke in at the front with the Dragoon to confirm the command center. So he's making this really fast robo and observer to kind of mitigate that issue, so that as long as he gets his observer in the base by about 6 minutes and he can identify any kind of like timing push coming out of the Terran, like any kind of free tank push or anything else that he needs to deal with. So I do kind of like this style from Kwark. It's a nice little cookie cutter way of playing. He's not delaying his gateways too much as well, so he's getting like at least 2 gateway worth of production fairly early to deal with any Terran timings.
It seems to work very well against Artosis. No starport coming out of him, so again, not going with drop play. Just gonna stick with 2 factory instantly into eBay. I don't know why he's decided to get the eBay here. If you're gonna have mines early on, you can mine up your base and defend against any earlier DT. And Kwark just never goes reavers, so I don't see the purpose of this.
Yeah, his micro is probably not sufficient to rely on his micro with the reavers in these higher tier games. He's actually throwing down a 3rd gateway, so he's actually going 3 gate obs, which is pretty much the most safest thing you can do. But like that's because he hasn't confirmed anything of the Terran yet. Like the observer won't get in until a bit after 6 minutes, and we don't even know about this command center. So in case there was some kind of crazy fast push from Artosis here, we are being a little bit safer with the 3rd gateway. So I do like this adjustment from Kwark after not scouting anything.
Yeah, if Kwark saw that eBay, I think he would have immediately thrown down the 3rd instead of going for a 3rd gateway here. But just being a little bit safe. Gonna pick off this SCV in the middle of the map and gets his first observer into the base. He's gonna see everything that's going on. And the academy here coming up. I don't see an armory yet for Artosis, which is a little surprising.
Yeah, well, he's doing this more like Mihu's. Oh, a Vulture Run by goes into the natural expansion, but beautiful block with the Dragoon. Not going to be letting those get into the main base, and Kwark with the probe drill also going to be stopping those Vultures, shuffling over to the left-hand side behind him, and also only losing a couple of probes there, kind of maintaining a worker average of about 42 on each side. So yeah, nothing too crazy there. Nice little pickup to get a couple of probes, but it's not really worth it to suicide those Vultures. You'd much rather have those Vultures out on the map laying mines, and I think that mines wasn't even done yet, so losing those Vultures is actually a big deal, because now you don't have those mines that those Vultures would otherwise have in a few moments here. Oh, we see weapons upgrade right away on the... I'm not sure if he's getting that just because, and like he wants to like maybe do carriers. He might not even commit to carriers later. This might just be like just in case I want to go carriers, and if the Terran scans later on, maybe he gets freaked out and thinks it's carriers even when it isn't. Because probably will still be arbiters for the time being. okay, there's that tribunal. I think he's just getting that as like an insurance, maybe like, oh, maybe I can go into carriers later on if I want to.
Interesting. So getting the +1 attack here, and also going for Arbiter Tribunal. The scan comes down, he sees the spinning core, and he sees the Stargate, but he doesn't see the Arbiter Tribunal. So big win there for Kwark. I think this is definitely going to get into Artosis' head here. He's going to start building Goliath for sure.
Oh, he won't build the Goliath like right now, but yeah, eventually he's gonna start needing them. Like, the carriers will not be popping out. And if it was 2-base carrier, then he'd be like a little bit worried. He'd have to start moving out soon. You've got kind of like a 2-3 minute window once those carriers are on the way, so that you can actually crush the Protoss before those carriers become too relevant. As it stands, I think he knows that the carrier timing will be in a little bit if it was on the way, so I don't think he's too scared right now. He just wants to be going up into his 6 factory production, so he's going to be doing this Mihu style with the really delayed upgrades, but really heavily focused on making those units early on. But he needs to put on some pressure this game. He can't just sit back and chill. I think losing those vultures early on, trying to get some probes, is a big mistake, because he's lost a little of the wind out of his sails. He needs those mines out on the map. He needs those extra vultures alive to help fight the Protoss infantry once he does it right for his push. So I think that's a bit of a misplay from him. He's sitting healthy on the supply count at the moment, but that's going to change really soon. Like, once Kwark gets these extra gateways out, and once these arbiters start coming out, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. He is keeping that +1 weapons on the way, and like I said earlier, like, it does mind game the Terran a lot once they scan and see that +1 weapons is researching, and like, you're going to think that there's some kind of carrier switch coming at some point. And Kwark might never even go for that. He might just use that as an insurance policy if he wants to like throw it out at him later on in the game if he feels like he needs the carriers as a kill switch.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting this from Artosis, but I definitely respect it. He goes for a second scan here and sees the Arbiter Tribunal. That's a big moment, seeing that, knowing that actually he doesn't need to build a ton of Goliaths right now. Maybe just add on a few. He's actually getting the missile range right now, but that'll still be useful against Arbiter. It's just that, you know, he doesn't have maybe 10 Goliaths with this next push and then get completely surprised by no carrier. And he's just going to go ahead and grab his third now. So, 5.
It's a nice vulture rate at the natural third of Kwark right now, picking up quite a lot of probes. You also got the probe at the 3 o'clock location that was trying to expand. So, nice pick up from Artosis there. That's a much better use of your vultures. If you're going to lose a few vultures, at least make sure they've used some of their mines first and they're killing a decent amount of probes. And he has done that. So, pretty good play with those vultures there, at least.
Yeah, this is a bit of a showcase of where Kwark lacks a little bit is in the defensive control, right? Watching out for drops, reacting to drops, like reacting to vulture run-bys. Those can be very hard for a low APM player to deal with, while simultaneously hitting all of your macro cycles and everything. And there's Artosis going in once again, trying to draw some of these zealots into mines, not really being successful, but there's only zealots here in the natural. If he comes over here with another group of vultures, he could possibly get some big damage there. So far, just setting up mines all over the place. He wants to make sure he's got a view of any arbiter coming in from the 12 o'clock, trying to go in for a recall. I haven't seen any upgrades. Did you see recall or stasis just yet?
Stasis is already done. I haven't seen recall, so I think we've definitely got stasis, but no recall yet.
Okay, so we're not worried about a recall just yet, although of course Artosis, he can't know that. He's adding on a bunch of turrets. He's starting to mine up the different locations. He doesn't have anything over here at the natural base, so that could be a pain later if we do have a recall come in onto that natural. There is just the one armory there in the main, and actually carriers are being built now, so he's switching over.
I was just about to say, I think Kwark's double mind gaming him. He's going to like show these arbiters, show this stasis, but really he actually is going to be committing to these carriers in the end. I think like, yeah, this was his original insurance policy. He wants to go up to like sort of 4 base carrier production. He'll be able to make like 3 Stargates worth of carriers to support his ground infantry. And because Artosis is choosing this really passive style, despite going for this unit heavy composition. He is getting another natural third raid with these vultures killing quite a lot of probes, but there are some zealots to come in and help deal with this. But he has lost quite a few of these probes, and it's annoying for Kwark because he needs to make a lot of interceptors, a lot of zealots. So losing your probes in too great of number can be a little bit of a problem. Right now, I would say he's not lost enough to be too devastating for him, but the problem is that, like, say, now he hasn't got enough probes to like transfer to his fourth and be saturated in every single expansion. So it's a little bit of a nuisance having your mineral smoothing disrupted like that, but he still has plenty in the bank to keep going with his production. We'll be able to make 3 carriers at a time with another core on the way to keep those upgrades going. Going to be wanting to get the armor upgrade on those carriers too going forward. EMP on the way for Artosis, currently sitting at 146 supply to 165 of Kwark. Has that +1 weapons upgrade with +2 on the way, so it's a little bit lagging in those upgrades yet again, kind of on par with the Protoss upgrades. +1 already done for Kwark with the +2 on the way at the similar timing of that +2 weapons for the tanks.
Yeah, Kwark getting everything right now. He's got a bunch of carriers popping out here soon. He's gone to 3 Stargate production, and I don't know, Terran just doesn't know what's going on at all. He has no idea about these carriers, I think. Otherwise, he'd be on the attack, on the offensive. He's going to have to deal with so many carriers here in a minute, and we're going to have recalls as well. We're going to have stasis. We're not going to have Storm, but it's on the way right now, so that's coming up soon. And yeah, basically, the entire tech tree from Kwark is being taken this game. Everything but a scout has been produced, pretty much.
One thing I really don't think that Artosis is doing enough against Kwark, generally speaking, not just in this game, is that he's not picking out or taking out all these observers. I think he needs to be a lot more proactive in getting a couple of Goliaths out early and like hunting down all these observers that Kwark's making and really shut down the vision of the Protoss, because right now he's kind of allowed Kwark to have like essentially a map hack in this game until like the 14th minute, and that's really like lined up Kwark nicely in this game going forward. Now going to be taking the bottom right quadrant of the map, now going to be setting up gateways down there too. So now the hard part for the Terran is that he's got to both kill the Protoss while also split pushing to multiple bases simultaneously. Against carriers, you haven't got enough time to just contain the rally and like kill one base at a time. You have to kind of split your army up and try and kill multiple bases at once and try and cripple the production of the Protoss before he gets too many carriers out on the field. We do have currently 5 carriers with another 3 finishing up soon, so he's going to be gradually going up to 6 and then 8 carriers, which is going to be a really menacing number of carriers for Artosis to deal with.
Yeah, that number of carriers is just a little bit scary. Here comes that first 5 carriers heading out across the map. We have quite a few Goliaths, so it seems like Artosis has kind of figured it out at this point. He knows that there is a carrier transition. Just will he be able to deal with it effectively? Completely maxed out here. Kwark just waiting for more carriers to pop out. EMP?
Got huge EMP of all of those 5 carriers sacrificing a vessel for their job. There is another vessel with enough energy to dematrix or EMP again as well, so he needs to make sure he doesn't lose that. It does go down to like 80 HP. Kwark wants to snipe that if he can. Does need to be a little bit careful with how he positions both these carriers and his vessels, because both units are really critical. Right now we have a huge army on the left hand side for Kwark going up into this high ground ridge on the 9 o'clock position. There's a really tough position for Artosis to deal with. There's quite a few Goliaths, but with the Dragoons fighting the Goliaths and stasising them at the front, there's not going to be much to fight the carriers and remainder. There's also a High Templar going to be throwing down some Sonic Storm on this Terran army as well. Kwark's going to back out with his inventory and keep his carriers here to fight what's remaining. There's not a lot of Goliaths here to keep fighting these carriers. Currently only 5 carriers here with most of their shield hit points reduced from that EMP, so it does need to be a little careful not to lose too many hold points coming into this 9 o'clock expansion area, trying to pick off some turrets, pick up a little bit of the economy and disrupt as much as he can, but he's losing a lot of carriers to go down for a small price of just a few Goliaths. So a little bit of a mistake from Kwark, kind of like outstaying his welcome, and now a big mistake going in. The Dragoons at the front, going to lose a lot of those infantry units, losing so many Dragoons, kind of reducing a supply count astronomically, going down to 150 supply to 190 of Artosis here. So a little bit of a blunder from Kwark going forward. I think he's kind of safe still though. These vultures coming into the bottom right shouldn't get too much done. There's 2 cannons here, so should buy him enough time to stabilize and not lose too many probes. Artosis will focus these cannons down, however, so he still may lose quite a lot. It may be just barely too slow for these Dragoons to get up into defend. There is a High Templar popping out that vultures could also snipe, but the carrier is going to be coming down, try and clean this up. But hopefully he doesn't lose too many probes, because these vultures will make short work of them. So currently going down about 5, 6, 7, 8 probes so far, I think.
This is a great distraction from Artosis. I'd love to see him unsiege all these tanks and head towards the natural right now, but it seems like this is a little bit too taxing on him right now. He's trying to build up his army once again, and now he's finally going to unsiege, but Kwark's army is starting to head back out on the map. If all of the carriers are down in the bottom right, and he gets over here to this natural and starts killing everything, I feel like that would be a much better position. Now he's moving, though. He's heading over towards that natural. The Templars have all made their way out of the natural now, and the carriers are heading down to the south. A bit out of position right now, Kwark is. He's heading down towards the bottom left, and you know, Artosis is going to be set up right here in the natural. It's not the end of the world, but this is a huge Terran army. He can do a lot of damage. Looks like Kwark just going to go for the counterattack, actually.
Yeah, Kwark wants to defend from the high ground with Templars and try and delay as much as possible while going for the counterattack. He feels that he can't engage the Terran army head on, so instead wants to try and go for counterattacks and try and outmaneuver the Terran and maybe force him to split his army. If he can catch half the army at a time, if he sends back half his army to deal with this force on the left while still trying to push and contain on the right, it's going to be really hard for Artosis to do both. So Kwark kind of trying to force some very key decision making onto the shoulders of Artosis and see if he makes a mistake. Currently, though, Artosis is pulling back pretty much everything to come and deal with this, leaving just a few skirmishing tanks at that natural while these carriers start to rain down on this Terran army. There's a lot of units coming from the right. There's a huge Psionic Storm that's going to be blanketing the forces that are coming in from that eastern flank. And the problem with the Psionic Storm is that it completely melts through the Terran armor. It's true damage, so it doesn't matter how much armor you have on your tanks or on your vultures and your Goliaths, they're going to be taking maximum damage of 110 damage over 2.5 seconds from those Psionic Storms. So really good use of the storms to soften up those Terran units while backing out of his carriers. But he has taken a little bit of damage from Artosis here, lost that expansion, but didn't lose too much of his infrastructure apart from that natural third. So he does have a little bit of minerals in main, a little bit as 3 o'clock, a little bit in the bottom left. So he has still plenty of production going forward. Does save the command center critically, but right now only down to 2 base mining for the Terran player without the other base online for him. It's going to be a little bit tough going forward if we are still able to squeeze out more and more carriers.
Yeah, 9 factories worth of production here for Artosis, proving to be not quite enough. He's still got plenty of money in the bank. He really needs more units out right now, though. He needs to remax here as quickly as possible. The carriers are going to come back in once again, pick off all of the turrets. They're going to go after the Goliaths now, too. This is not really a problem for Kwark, but it's really starting to hurt Artosis here. He's losing these precious Goliaths, and Kwark has enough money here and enough mining to just keep on producing those interceptors over and over again. And now he's switching back into Arbiter. 3 Arbiters going to pop out now.
Wow. It's going to be really tough for Artosis to manage this because he's going to be pumping almost pure Goliath with just a handful of tanks. So there's going to be no vultures, no real vessel count. It's just pure tank Goliath. So if you've got quite a diverse Protoss composition with high Templars, Arbiters, and carriers, it's going to be really hard for Artosis to kind of specialize his army to deal with that. He's going to just be throwing a cookie cutter Terran macro at it, just pure tank Goliath. But it's not going to be too cost efficient in some of these trades unless he manages to engage the Protoss head on, which is going to be very difficult to do to force the Protoss player to fight him head on.
It's time for Artosis to take another base here. It looks like he wants to probably take 12 while pushing towards the natural, and Kwark just going to go for a counterattack once again, maybe go for that center left. That base is so important here right now for Artosis. He needs to keep that up. And the natural here for Kwark, it doesn't really matter. Killing this base is kind of useless right now. He's going to try and kill this base. I guess the 3rd base just cancels immediately, and Kwark goes in for the counterattack. He's going to lose a lot of SCVs, it looks like, and probably a bunch of his rallies as well. Coming forward with the EMP. He's going to get it on both the Arbiters. A beautiful EMP there. He gets a second one as well. Gets onto some of those carriers. He really needs to start running forward here, but the tank number is a little bit low, and there's still quite a few Zealots and Dragoons in this army. A lot of Zealots cleaning up these Goliaths here on the top side, but as the weight of the Terran army moves south, he will have to back away. There's quite a few mines here to deal with these goons. My God, that was some great mine hits. Dealing with a lot of that, and he's got to back away. The carriers are going to start to go down here if he manages to focus one, and the command center falls. No. Big problems here for Artosis now, losing that command center. is a huge win there for Kwark. I mean, we don't have a command center up at the 12 o'clock. This is really where
he needs to take that from the third. He just made one. He's going to float one to the 12 o'clock now. He had one float ready to float at least.
He's going to be able to take that base. It's the perfect base to take if you're trying to kill the Protoss natural. Trying to take bases in the bottom left is going to be so hard right now because the carriers, the recalls, everything is going to be mobile around the map for Kwark. Really, he needs to keep it tight right now and start to pick off some of the bases of Kwark around the map. He's actually bringing tanks forward, trying to take out the center right, maybe go for the bottom right as well. Tanks are all set up here, and he's kind of zoned the carriers out of coming back for the time being. Another little counterattack coming forward for Kwark. He's going to go for the stasis, but doesn't get it off before that Arbiter goes down. Now going to throw down a few storms here, but this army will be cleaned up, and it looks like the base in the center right going to be cleaned up as well, except for these carriers are on their way back. They're going to be able to reinforce, and the Goliaths all went home for Artosis to defend. He really needs this with the tank army, otherwise he's going to lose all his tanks. Uh-oh. This is going to be bad.
It's only 5 Goliaths here. Still 7 carriers. He's going to lose all these tanks for free. Goliaths are going to now receive the bad news on the radio that all of their brothers in arms are going to be falling by the wayside. It's really unfortunate for Artosis there, getting his army taken up piecemeal like this. He has got this CC flow to 12 o'clock, but it hasn't landed yet. He's only just now got this other base back online at the 9 o'clock position. So a little bit of an untenable position unless Artosis can start taking out more of these expansions. He has killed a lot of the probes at the 3 o'clock base, but the Nexus is still there. He hasn't killed the base yet. Goliath's now going to be streaming in from the western flank, trying to get on top of these carriers. They need to micro back on top of the high ground. Kwark could lose a lot of these carriers right now. 1 falls. He needs to quickly micro these back. Another one's going to go down. It's a big play for Artosis, getting 2 of these carriers. Pretty easy snipes, but a big flank from the top on the high ground ridge with those Dragoons going to be cleaning up all of those Goliaths and tanks. So I think that now Kwark's going to start running away with this game. He didn't kill enough Goliaths there and kind of got baited into attacking those carriers while the Goons were in hot pursuit from the north to kind of pincer in those Goliaths and prevent a retreat.
Yeah, it all goes back to bringing those Goliaths back. He was doing a great job of zoning the carriers down into the bottom left and not allowing them to come back and help, but the moment he got hit with that counterattack, he sent all of his Goliaths back to his natural to help, or his third base to help, and ends up losing his tank count. Now he doesn't have that spread of tanks on the right-hand side anymore. He's not picking off Nexuses. He's not limiting the army or the economy here of Kwark, and Kwark going to get up into the 12 o'clock and actually pick off this base. Killing all these SCVs is going to be huge. He's Artosis had 10 SCV advantage, but now he's going to lose a ton. He's going to be losing that command center as well. Can he trap this army, though?
Yeah, right now he probably will not be able to trap the army. He's going to lose the command center for free. I don't like that Artosis is trying to push down with his Goliaths. It'd be better if he just tries to hold the high ground ridge and then pull back. Like, yeah, GG. Like, there's no way. Like, I don't think that Artosis can win from this position. Like, he just got outmaneuvered by the carriers.
Damn. All right, Kwark takes another game off of him. That's 2 in a row. These were both played on the same day, by the way, and I can confirm they matched up for a third time, but Artosis just left the game immediately. Definitely tilted by that result. Guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in the next cast.